walks onto stage with confident energy, pauses, and makes eye contact with the audience. You know what keeps most people awake at 3 in the morning. It's not fear. It's not anxiety. It's regret. It's that voice in your head whispering, what if I had tried harder? What if I hadn't given up? What if I had worked just a little bit longer when everyone else went home? Tonight, I want to talk to you about silencing that voice forever. I want to talk to you about becoming so undeniable, so exceptional, so extraordinary that ignoring you becomes impossible. Let me tell you something that changed my life. I was reading an interview with Priyanka Chopra, and she said something that hit me like a lightning bolt. She said, I was always the underdog. Nobody expected me to succeed. So I made a decision I would work so hard that they'd have no choice but to notice me. Think about that for a second. She didn't wait for permission. She didn't wait for someone to believe in her. She decided to make herself impossible to ignore. And that's exactly what she did. Here's a woman who came from a middle-class family in India, won Miss World at 17, and people said, okay, great, another beauty queen. She'll do a few Bollywood movies and fade away. But Priyanka had other plans. She didn't just want to be in Bollywood. She wanted to conquer Hollywood. She wanted to be a global icon, and you know what everyone told her? It's impossible, you're Indian. You have an accent. Hollywood doesn't want you. But here's the thing about people who work until they can't be ignored. They don't hear the word impossible. They hear, I'm possible. So let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Are you working at a level where people can still ignore you? Are you doing just enough to get by? Are you comfortable? Because let me tell you the brutal truth, comfortable is the enemy of extraordinary. Comfortable is where dreams go to die. Comfortable is where potential gets buried under Netflix binges and social media scrolling and complaining about how unfair life is. Priyanka Chopra moved to America with a suitcase and a dream. She didn't know anyone. She didn't have connections. She had to start from zero. And you know what she did? She took every meeting. She auditioned for every role. She showed up 2 hours early to every appointment. She learned the American entertainment industry inside out. She studied the culture, the humor, the timing. She worked with acting coaches. She worked with accent coaches. She worked 18-hour days, 7 days a week. And slowly, painfully, persistently, she started getting small roles. Guest appearances. 1 episode here, 1 episode there. Most people would have given up. Most people would have said, this isn't working. I should go back home where I'm already famous. But not Priyanka. She understood something fundamental about success that most people never learn. Success isn't about talent. Success isn't about luck. Success is about outlasting everyone else. It's about working when others are sleeping. It's about practicing when others are partying. It's about showing up when others have given up. And then came Quantico, a lead role in an American TV series. The first South Asian woman to headline an American network drama series. And suddenly, the same people who ignored her, the same casting directors who said no, the same producers who didn't return her calls, they all wanted a piece of Priyanka Chopra. Why? Because she had worked until they couldn't ignore her anymore. But here's what I want you to understand. This isn't just about Priyanka Chopra. This is about you. This is about every single person in this room who has a dream, who has a goal, who has something they desperately want to achieve, but haven't gotten there yet. The question isn't whether you're talented enough. The question is whether you're willing to work hard enough. Let me share another story with you. There was a guy named Sylvester Stallone. Before Rocky, before the fame, before the fortune, Stallone was broke. Not just broke, he was so poor he had to sell his dog for $50 because he couldn't afford to feed it. He was living in a bus station. He had $33 in his bank account, and he was going to auditions and getting rejected. Over and over and over again. He got rejected 1,500 times. Think about that number. 1,500 rejections. Most people quit after 10 rejections. Some dedicated people might push through 100, but 1,500. That's not just persistence. That's obsession. That's refusing to accept any reality except the one where you succeed. And then one day, Stallone sat down and in 3.5 days, he wrote the screenplay for Rocky. He wrote it in a fever, barely sleeping, barely eating, just pouring his entire soul onto those pages. And when he was done, he had something special. He knew it. He could feel it. So he started shopping the script around Hollywood, and guess what? People loved it. They wanted to buy it. They offered him $25,000 for the script, then $50,000, then $100,000, then $250,000 for a guy who had $33 and had just sold his dog. This was life-changing money. But there was one condition. They wanted a real star to play Rocky. They wanted a famous actor. They didn't want Stallone. And here's where most people would have taken the money and run. $250,000 when you're broke. That's a no-brainer, right? But not Stallone. He said no. He said, "I'll sell you this script on one condition: I play Rocky." And they laughed at him. They said, "You're nobody. You're not a star. Why would we let you play the lead?" And he said, "Because this is my story. This is my life. And if I don't play Rocky, there is no deal." They thought he was crazy. They thought he'd come crawling back. But he didn't. He stuck to his guns. He believed in himself when nobody else did. And finally, after more rejections, after more doors slamming in his face, someone took a chance on him. They gave him a tiny budget of $1 million to make the movie and let him play the lead. And you know what happened? Rocky was nominated for 10 Academy Awards and won 3, including Best Picture. It made over $200 million. And Sylvester Stallone went from sleeping in bus stations to becoming one of the biggest movie stars in the world. But here's what I want you to take away from this story. It wasn't talent that made Stallone successful. There were more talented actors in Hollywood. It wasn't connections. He had none. It wasn't luck. After 1,500 rejections, he'd used up any luck he might have had. What made Stallone successful was his absolute, unshakable refusal to give up. His willingness to work harder than anyone else, his decision to become so good, so persistent, so undeniable that they had no choice but to say yes. That's the hard work formula. That's what work until they can't ignore you really means. It means you outwork your competition so completely that comparison becomes pointless. It means you show up so consistently that people start setting their watches by your presence. It means you deliver such exceptional quality that people feel embarrassed to offer you anything less than what you deserve. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. That's easy for them to say. They made it. They're special. They're different. Let me stop you right there. They're not special. They're not different. They just made a different choice than most people make. They chose pain over comfort. They chose growth over stagnation. They chose work over excuses. Let me tell you about someone you might not have heard of. His name is Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah, that Jerry Seinfeld. The comedian. The guy who created one of the most successful TV shows in history. The guy who makes millions of dollars per year from syndication deals. But before all that, Jerry Seinfeld was just another struggling comedian in New York City trying to get 5 minutes of stage time at dingy clubs. And Jerry had a problem. He wasn't naturally the funniest guy in the room. There were comedians who could walk on stage cold and kill it, but not Jerry. Jerry had to work for every laugh. So he developed a system. He called it "Don't Break the Chain." Every single day, he would write jokes, not when he felt inspired, not when he was in the mood. Every single day. And he put a big calendar on his wall, and every day that he wrote jokes, he put a big red X on that day. And after a few days, he had a chain of X, and his only job was to not break the chain. Some days the jokes were good. Some days they were terrible. Didn't matter. The point wasn't to write good jokes every day. The point was to show up every day. Because Jerry understood something profound. Inspiration is amateur hour. Professionals show up regardless of how they feel. Professionals understand that motivation follows action, not the other way around. And over time, over years of daily work, Jerry Seinfeld became one of the greatest observational comedians of all time. Not because he was the most talented, but because he was the most consistent. He worked when others waited for inspiration. He wrote when others were watching TV. He perfected his craft while others were perfecting their excuses. That's the secret. That's the formula. Consistent, relentless, daily work toward your goal. Not occasionally. Not when you feel like it. every single day. When you're tired, when you're discouraged, when you feel like giving up, especially when you feel like giving up. Because that's when most people quit. That's when your competition falls away. That's when you create separation between yourself and everyone else. Priyanka Chopra has a saying. She says, "I've never said no to hard work." Think about that philosophy. Never saying no to hard work. That means when everyone else is heading home at 5 o'clock, you're still there. When everyone else is sleeping in on Saturday, you're up working on your craft. When everyone else is complaining about how hard things are, you're too busy actually doing the work to complain. And I want to be clear about something. This isn't about toxic hustle culture. This isn't about burning yourself out. This isn't about sacrificing your health and your relationships and your sanity on the altar of success. This is about being strategic. This is about being intentional. This is about identifying what matters most to you and then working relentlessly toward that goal. Priyanka Chopra doesn't just work hard randomly. She works hard strategically. She knows exactly what she wants to achieve, and she designs her daily actions around getting there. She says no to things that don't serve her goals. She says yes to opportunities that stretch her and grow her, even when they're scary. She invests in herself, coaches, training, education, health. She treats her career like a professional athlete treats their sport. And that's what most people get wrong about hard work. They think it means doing more stuff, more meetings, more emails, more busy work. But that's not hard work. That's just being busy. Hard work is doing the right things consistently over a long period of time. Hard work is having the discipline to focus on what matters and ignore everything else. Hard work is choosing delayed gratification over instant satisfaction. Let me give you a perfect example. There's a story about Will Smith and how he became one of the biggest movie stars in the world. Will Smith grew up in West Philadelphia, and his mom used to make him and his brother rebuild a brick wall in front of their business. This wall was massive. It took them more than a year to rebuild it. And young Will kept complaining, "This is impossible. This wall is too big. We're never going to finish it." And his father said something that Will Smith says changed his entire life. His father said, "Stop thinking about the wall. You're not building a wall. You're laying one brick. And you're going to lay that brick as perfectly as a brick can be laid. And then you're going to lay another brick, and another, and another. And eventually, you'll have a wall." That's the philosophy that took Will Smith from being a rapper to being one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood. He didn't think about becoming a movie star. He thought about his next audition, his next scene, his next line, one brick at a time, laid perfectly, consistently, every single day. When Will Smith was filming Ali, the Muhammad Ali biopic, he trained like a professional boxer for over a year, 6 days a week. 5 hours a day. He learned to box. He got in phenomenal shape. He studied Ali's mannerisms, his speech patterns, his philosophy. And people said, "Why are you working so hard? You're already a star. You're going to get paid regardless." And Will said, "Because I'm not willing to let my name be attached to anything that's less than excellent." That's the standard. That's the level of work ethic we're talking about. Not doing enough to get by. Not doing enough to be good. Doing enough to be undeniable. Doing enough that when people see your work, they can't help but be impressed. They can't help but respect you. They can't help but want you on their team. And here's the beautiful thing about working at this level. It compounds. The first year is hard. You're grinding and nobody notices. The second year is hard. You're still grinding and only a few people notice. The third year starts to get interesting. The fourth year, things start to happen. The fifth year, you're an overnight success. Except it wasn't overnight. It was 5 years of work that nobody saw. 5 years of sacrifice. 5 years of doing things everyone else wasn't willing to do. Priyanka Chopra talks about this all the time. She says people see the red carpets and the magazine covers and the movie deals, but they don't see the years of rejection. They don't see the times she cried in her car after another casting director told her she wasn't right. They don't see the loneliness of being in a foreign country, far from family, working 100-hour weeks. They don't see the doubt, the fear, the moments when she wanted to quit. But she didn't quit. And that's what separated her from everyone else who wanted the same thing. She was willing to pay a price that others weren't willing to pay. She was willing to endure discomfort that others avoided. She was willing to work when others wanted to rest. And I want to talk about that for a minute, about paying the price. Because everything you want has a price. Success has a price. Excellence has a price. Becoming undeniable has a price. And the question isn't whether you want to succeed. Everyone wants to succeed. The question is whether you're willing to pay the price. The price is waking up early when you want to sleep in. The price is staying late when you want to go home. The price is studying when you want to watch TV. The price is practicing when you want to play. The price is learning when you want to relax. The price is discipline when you want freedom. The price is delayed gratification when you want instant satisfaction. And here's the thing about prices. You can pay now or you can pay later, but you're going to pay either way. You can pay the price of discipline or you can pay the price of regret. You can pay the price of hard work or you can pay the price of mediocrity. You can pay the price of pushing yourself or you can pay the price of watching others live the life you wanted. I'm a big believer that life is fair. Not in the way most people think. Life isn't fair in the sense that everyone gets the same opportunities or the same starting point. But life is fair in this way. Life gives you exactly what you earn. No more, no less. If you work hard, you get results. If you don't work hard, you don't get results. It's that simple. It's not complicated. It's just hard. And that's why most people don't make it. Not because they're not talented. Not because they're not smart. Not because they're not capable, but because they're not willing to do hard things consistently over a long period of time. They want the shortcut. They want the hack. They want the secret that makes it easy. But there is no shortcut. There is no hack. There is no secret. There's just work. Difficult, uncomfortable, often boring work. Day after day after day. That's the formula. That's what Priyanka Chopra figured out. That's what every successful person in history has figured out. And that's what you need to figure out if you want to join them. Let me tell you about another person who embodies this philosophy. Her name is J.K. Rowling. You know her as the author of Harry Potter, one of the most successful book series in history. But before that, J.K. Rowling was a single mother living on welfare in Edinburgh, Scotland. She was broke. She was depressed. She was struggling. And she had this idea for a book about a boy wizard. So every day she would take her baby daughter to a coffee shop, order 1 cup of coffee to justify sitting there for hours, and she would write in longhand on napkins and scraps of paper because she couldn't afford a computer. While her daughter slept in the stroller next to her, she wrote. When she felt like giving up, she wrote. When she was exhausted from being a single mom, she wrote. When she had no idea if anyone would ever read her words, she wrote. It took her 5 years to finish the first Harry Potter book. 5 years of daily work. And then she started sending it to publishers. And they rejected her. Over and over. 12 publishers rejected Harry Potter. 12 different publishers looked at what would become one of the most successful book series in history and said, no thanks. Not interested. Most people would have quit after the 3rd rejection, maybe the 5th if they were really persistent. But J.K. Rowling kept going. She kept sending her manuscript. She kept believing in her work. She kept working on making it better. And finally, a small publisher took a chance on her. They printed 1,000 copies. They gave her an advance of £1,500. And they told her, don't quit your day job. You'll never make money writing children's books. Well, J.K. Rowling didn't have a day job to quit. But she did make money writing children's books. About $1 billion worth. Harry Potter has sold over 500 million copies. It's been translated into 80 languages. It's spawned movies, theme parks, merchandise, an entire empire. And all of it started with a broke single mom who refused to give up, who worked when she was tired, who believed when others doubted, who persisted when everyone else would have quit. That's the power of working until they can't ignore you. Because here's the truth, J.K. Rowling didn't need those 12 publishers who said no. She only needed one who said yes. And she only got that one yes because she kept working. She kept improving. She kept showing up. She became so good at her craft. She created something so compelling that eventually someone had to say yes. And that's what I want you to understand. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You don't need everyone to say yes. You just need one yes, one opportunity, one break. But you only get that break by working so hard, by becoming so good, that saying no becomes impossible. Priyanka Chopra talks about this concept all the time. She says, I don't believe in luck. I believe in hard work. And people always push back on this. They say, come on, there's luck involved. There's timing. There's being in the right place at the right time. And she says, you know what? Maybe. But I'll tell you what. The harder I work, the luckier I get. Think about that. The harder you work, the luckier you get. Because luck isn't random. Luck is preparation meeting opportunity. Luck is being ready when the moment comes. Luck is having put in so much work that when the door opens, you can walk through it confidently. Most people wait for the door to open before they start preparing. They say, when I get the opportunity, then I'll work hard. When someone gives me a chance, then I'll prove myself. But that's backwards. You have to do the work before the opportunity comes. You have to be ready before the door opens. Because opportunities don't wait. Opportunities don't care if you're ready or not. They show up and they move on to the next person. Priyanka Chopra was ready. When Quantico came along, she wasn't just another actress hoping for a break. She was a trained, experienced, skilled professional who had put in thousands of hours of work. She was ready to carry an entire TV series on her shoulders. She was ready for the pressure, the scrutiny, the workload. And that's why she succeeded. So let me ask you, are you ready? If your dream opportunity showed up tomorrow, would you be ready to take it? Have you put in the work? Have you developed the skills? Have you paid the price? Or are you waiting for the opportunity to show up before you start preparing? Because here's the brutal truth. If you're not ready when the opportunity comes, it's going to go to someone else. Someone who did the work. Someone who was prepared. Someone who worked while you were waiting. I want to talk about another aspect of hard work that people don't often discuss. And that's the mental game. The psychology of pushing through when things get hard. Because hard work isn't just physical. It's not just about putting in hours. It's about mental toughness. It's about developing the psychological resilience to keep going when every fiber of your being wants to quit. There's a concept in psychology called the desert of desertion. It's the point in any difficult journey where most people quit. It's past the initial excitement. But before you can see results, it's when the work is hard, progress is slow, and doubt creeps in. This is where most dreams die. Not because people aren't talented, not because the goal was impossible, but because they quit in the desert of desertion. Priyanka Chopra spent years in this desert. Years where she was working incredibly hard but couldn't see the results yet. Years where people were still doubting her. Years where she questioned whether she'd made the right decision. But she kept walking. She kept working. She kept believing. And eventually, she made it through the desert. And here's what nobody tells you about the desert. When you're in it, it feels endless. It feels like you're never going to make it. It feels like maybe everyone who doubted you was right. But here's the thing, the desert has an end. Everyone who makes it through will tell you there was a moment where things shifted, where suddenly all that invisible work started producing visible results, where the compounding effect of daily effort reached critical mass, where they went from nobody to somebody seemingly overnight. But it wasn't overnight. It was years of nights, years of early mornings, years of consistent, persistent, relentless work. And the only difference between the people who make it and the people who don't is this: the people who make it keep working in the desert. The people who don't make it turn around and walk back. So when you're in your desert, and you will be, everyone who attempts something worthwhile goes through the desert. Remember this. Keep walking. Keep working. Keep believing. Because the only way out is through. You can't go around the desert. You can't skip the desert. You have to go through it. And the only way to go through is one step at a time, one day at a time, one brick at a time. Let me tell you about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Here's a guy who embodies the concept of working until they can't ignore you. Dwayne Johnson was a college football player who dreamed of playing in the NFL. He was good, really good. And then he got injured. His football career ended before it really began. He was devastated. He was depressed. He had $7 in his pocket and no plan. So he became a professional wrestler. And he worked at it. He studied the greats. He developed his character. He practiced his promos. He trained his body. He worked on his timing, his charisma, his connection with the audience. And he became The Rock, one of the most successful wrestlers in WWE history. But The Rock wanted more. He wanted to be a movie star. So he started getting small roles in movies. And he was terrible. Go back and watch his early movie performances. They're not good. He was stiff. He was awkward. He couldn't act. And people said, stick to wrestling. You're not an actor. But Dwayne Johnson didn't listen. He hired acting coaches. He took classes. He studied films. He analyzed performances. He practiced. And slowly, painfully, over years, he got better. He got roles, small roles, supporting roles, and he outworked everyone. He showed up early. He stayed late. He was professional. He was prepared. He was easy to work with. He was so good at the business side of being an actor that people wanted to work with him even when his acting was still developing. And then something interesting happened. The Rock became a bankable star. Studios started building movies around him. He became one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood. He built a business empire. And now, when people think of The Rock, they don't think of a wrestler who couldn't act. They think of a global superstar, an incredibly successful actor and businessman. How did that transformation happen? Hard work, strategic, intelligent, consistent hard work. The Rock has a saying, success isn't always about greatness, it's about consistency. Consistent hard work leads to success. Greatness will come. Consistent hard work leads to success. Not talent, not luck, not connections. Hard work. The thing everyone has access to. The thing nobody can take away from you. The thing that doesn't require permission or approval or special circumstances. Just the decision to do it. Every day, regardless of how you feel. Regardless of who's watching. Regardless of whether you see results yet. And I want to address something that holds a lot of people back from working at this level. Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of success. Fear of judgment. Fear of wasting time on something that might not work out. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the dream killer. Fear is what keeps most people playing small. Priyanka Chopra talks about fear all the time. She says, I'm scared all the time. I'm scared when I take on a new role. I'm scared when I try something I've never done before. I'm scared of failing. But I've learned that fear is just information. It tells me that something matters, that I care, and I use that fear as fuel. That's the key. Successful people feel fear just like everyone else. They just don't let fear make their decisions. They feel the fear and work anyway. They feel the doubt and push forward anyway. They feel the discomfort and grow anyway. Because here's what fear really is. Fear is your brain trying to protect you. It's your primitive survival mechanism saying, this is dangerous. Stay safe. But the things your brain identifies as dangerous aren't actually life-threatening. They're just uncomfortable. Public speaking isn't dangerous. Starting a business isn't dangerous. Putting your art into the world isn't dangerous. They just feel dangerous because they involve risk and uncertainty and the possibility of failure. But you know what's actually dangerous? Letting fear make your decisions. Reaching the end of your life and realizing you never tried. Never took the chance. Never did the work. That's dangerous. That's the real tragedy, not failing, but never trying. So feel the fear. Acknowledge it. Thank it for trying to protect you. And then do the work anyway. Take the risk anyway. Put yourself out there anyway. Because on the other side of fear is everything you want. Everything you dream about. Everything that makes life worth living. Now, I want to talk about something practical, because all of this philosophy is great, but how do you actually implement it? How do you actually work until they can't ignore you? Let me give you some concrete strategies. First, identify your one thing. What is the one skill, the one area, the one domain where you want to become undeniable? You can't be world class at everything, You can't even be great at everything, but you can be extraordinary at one thing. So choose. What's your one thing? For Priyanka, it was acting and entertainment. For Jerry Seinfeld, it was comedy. For J.K. Rowling, it was writing. What's yours? Second, commit to daily practice, not when you feel like it, every day, even if it's just 15 minutes. Even if you're tired, even if you're busy, daily practice compounds. Missing one day doesn't seem like a big deal. But missing one day becomes missing 2 days, becomes missing a week, becomes you've quit without admitting you quit. Don't break the chain. Third, get feedback. Find people who are better than you and learn from them. Get coaches, get mentors, join communities, read books, watch videos, study the best in your field. Learn from people who have already accomplished what you're trying to accomplish. You don't have to figure everything out yourself. Stand on the shoulders of giants. Fourth, embrace discomfort. Growth lives outside your comfort zone. If you're always comfortable, you're not growing. Seek out challenges. Take on projects that scare you. Put yourself in situations where you're the least experienced person in the room. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. That's how you become better. Fifth, measure progress. Keep track of your work. Keep track of your improvement. Write down your wins. Celebrate your progress. Because progress is often slow and invisible, you need to be able to look back and see how far you've come. It gives you fuel to keep going. Sixth, be patient. This is a marathon, not a sprint. You're not going to become undeniable in a month or a year or even 2 years. This takes time, years, maybe decades. And that's okay, because those years are going to pass anyway. You can spend them working toward your goal, or you can spend them wishing you were working toward your goal. The choice is yours. Seventh, protect your energy. Hard work doesn't mean burning out. It means being strategic about where you invest your time and energy. Say no to things that don't serve your goals. Set boundaries. Take care of your health. Sleep, exercise, eat well. Manage your stress. You can't work hard if you're exhausted and burned out. This is a long game. Treat yourself like the valuable asset you are. Eighth, stay humble. No matter how good you get, there's always someone better. There's always more to learn. There's always room for improvement. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment you start declining. Stay curious, stay hungry, stay humble. Priyanka Chopra, even with all her success, still takes acting classes, still works with coaches, still pushes herself to improve. That's the mindset of champions. Ninth, ignore the haters. When you start working at a high level, when you start achieving things, people will criticize you. People will doubt you. People will try to bring you down. Ignore them. Their opinions don't matter. The only opinion that matters is yours. Are you proud of your work? Are you giving your best effort? Are you moving toward your goals? That's all that matters. 10th, enjoy the journey. Yes, work hard. Yes, push yourself. Yes, be disciplined. But also enjoy the process. Fall in love with the work itself, not just the results. Because here's the thing, you're going to spend a lot more time working than you will celebrating victories. If you can't enjoy the work, you're going to be miserable. Find joy in the practice. Find satisfaction in knowing you gave your best effort. Find fulfillment in the person you're becoming through the work. These 10 strategies are not complicated. They're actually quite simple. But simple doesn't mean easy. Implementing these strategies consistently over years is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. That's why most people don't do it. That's why there's so much room at the top. That's why becoming undeniable is actually achievable if you're willing to do what others won't. Let me tell you one more story before we finish. There was a young artist named Vincent van Gogh. During his lifetime, he sold one painting. One. He was unknown, unrecognized, ignored. He lived in poverty. He struggled with mental health. He had every reason to quit. But he didn't. He painted every day. He created over 2,000 artworks in his lifetime, paintings, drawings, sketches. He worked constantly, obsessively, passionately. And nobody cared. Nobody bought his paintings. Nobody celebrated his genius. He died unknown and broke at age 37. And it would be easy to say that Vincent van Gogh was a failure, that all his hard work was for nothing, that he should have quit and done something more practical. But here's the thing. Today, Van Gogh is considered one of the greatest artists in history. His paintings sell for hundreds of millions of dollars. His work hangs in the greatest museums in the world. His influence on art is immeasurable. He worked until he couldn't be ignored. It just took the world a while to catch up. Now, I'm not saying you should work in obscurity for your entire life and only be recognized after you're gone. That's not the point. The point is this: Van Gogh didn't paint for recognition. He didn't paint for money. He didn't paint for fame. He painted because he had to, because he was an artist, because the work itself mattered to him. And that's the ultimate level of working until they can't ignore you. When you do the work, whether they notice or not. When you commit to excellence, whether you get rewarded or not. When you pursue your craft because it's who you are, not because of what you'll get, that's mastery. That's purpose. That's the work formula that Priyanka Chopra, Dwayne Johnson, J.K. Rowling, Sylvester Stallone, and every truly successful person has figured out. They work because they're called to work, because they're committed to their craft. Because excellence is not a destination, but a way of traveling. So let me bring this all together. You have a choice to make right now, today, this moment. You can choose to be ordinary. You can choose to do just enough. You can choose comfort. There's no shame in that. Most people make that choice. The world needs ordinary people doing ordinary things. But if you want more, if you want to achieve something significant, if you want to make a difference, if you want to live a life that matters, then you have to choose the harder path. You have to choose to work when others rest, to practice when others play, to push when others quit, to become so good, so skilled, so undeniable that ignoring you becomes impossible. This isn't about being perfect. This isn't about never making mistakes. This isn't about sacrificing everything for success. This is about being intentional. This is about having a goal that matters to you and then organizing your daily actions around achieving that goal. This is about making the most of the one life you have, the one shot you get at this existence. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to acknowledge. Life is short. It's so much shorter than you think. You don't have unlimited time. You don't have infinite opportunities. One day, sooner than you expect, you're going to run out of tomorrows. And on that day, you're going to look back at your life. And the only question that